Coast to coast, border to border, and around the world, it's time for The Bill Alexander Show. The Bill Alexander Show is a guest-driven program where the topics are diverse and entertaining. Laugh and learn while you listen to one of the best hours of online radio. Now, here's your host, Bill Alexander.
Hi, everyone. Yours truly, William Eric Alexander. All my friends call me Bill, and welcome to the Bill Alexander Show. So glad you could join us on this wonderful day, no matter what day you're watching or listening to the program. And a big shout out goes to a new affiliate, well, actually an old affiliate that we're going back to again. And who am I talking about? Fayette TV Channel 77, part of the Breeze Line Cable Communication System. So hi, everyone in Uniontown and Fayette County. And also, if you can't find me there, you can also find me online at YouTube and on Audacity, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. And if you can't find me in any of those places, stop by my website, thebillalexandershow.com. So today is a really special show for me because I get to talk to somebody that we talked to a while ago, and we're going to talk to her about her new book. But the best part is the last time I talked to her was on October 13th, 2020. And we talked about her movie career and everything else. And she said when she released her next book, she would be on the program. Well, guess what? Diane Franklin is on the program. Diane, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, and thank you for having me back, Bill.
I am so grateful for you to join me. And we did. You said that you would come back as soon as the new book was released, and it's being released officially this coming Friday, February 18th.
Yes, I'm so happy because this book is dear to my heart. And it is the third of my books, but I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how happy I am that it's done, and it's done at a time where I just had a birthday, and so I promised myself that I was going to get this book out around my birthday, and so here we are. So it was great.
Well, your birthday was February 11th. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you so much.
And if you don't mind me saying, can I mention your age?
Absolutely. Please. I'm proud of it. I've lived.
She just turned 60, which she does not look like it.
60, seriously. I feel so fortunate to be able to say that. You know, you never know your story, you never know your life. And that's why this book coming out on my 60th birthday around it is very special, very important. And I don't know, there's so much to say, but I feel very grateful, and I'm really glad that we're talking.
So what makes this book different from the first two, which the first one you released was in, let me make sure I got the right year here, was in 2012. And that was Diane Franklin, The Excellent Adventure of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. And the second one was from 2017, Diane Franklin, The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. And then finally, the book being released this Friday is Diane Franklin, The Excellent Comedy of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. You like really long titles.
Well, the whole point of it, the titles have to bring a smile to your face. I wanted to make sure that, well, first of all, I was so funny. I remember when I created the title, and I thought, I just can't wait to hear someone say that name, like announcing the book, or so like somebody like saying on a talk show, like something, and it's hilarious. You cannot say it without smiling or laughing. So that's why I created the long name. And I also, I got to say, the truth of it, the starting of it was that I didn't assume that people would know who I was, because I never had a name that at the time during my career that was recognizable. I always did my work and kept my name if they might have announced my name, but I never did publicity. So I never assumed, even to this day, my name is, although it's simple, it wasn't something that I assumed was going to be remembered. So I was always kind of like, okay, well, if you don't remember me, then you might remember in the title, something might give you a hint.
So with that being said, and I think that's very interesting that you said your name wasn't recognizable, or at least they didn't know you by your name. But
Mhm.
I would see them knowing you more by your face and your hair than by who you
Yeah.
were. Did you notice that when people would see you up on the street and stuff like that in the 80s, they would say, "Hey, I know who you are"?
Well, I think in the 80s, it was interesting. It wasn't, I mean, again, there was no internet. I mean, today, we see people's faces much more often. I did get recognized. Okay, so it's kind of funny. In the 80s, I would get recognized every once in a while. And also, I get more recognized on the East Coast than on the West Coast. For some reason, people maybe on the West Coast are more like if they recognize you, maybe they don't say anything to you. But on the East Coast, people would start to recognize me. But I will never forget actually when I did a commercial for Reese's peanut butter cups.
No, I
Okay.
was going to bring that up. I am so glad you mentioned that.
Okay, so here's the funny part, right? And you can bring up the details of it. Those of you who don't know, Reese's peanut butter cups, you got your chocolate in my peanut butter, you got your peanut butter in my chocolate. That commercial I did when I was 16 years old, and I was on the street when I was 16, and somebody recognized me in New York. Hey, were you on that commercial? And seriously, that blew my mind because to be recognized in a commercial, that's very unusual, very unusual. So that was my first, I guess, moment of being recognized. But did you hear about the commercial being on Colbert, Stephen Colbert
Yes,
show?
yes. And I think it's so funny because when you do the commercial and you look at it by today's standards, it is really corny.
Oh, yes,
I mean,
so
who is
corny.
this girl walking down the street with an open jar of peanut butter, dipping two fingers in and eating peanut butter while walking down the street?
This obviously happens all the time in the 80s, right? I mean,
Oh,
this
I mean, I
happened.
remember it. I mean, I saw kids doing it walking down the hallway in class. Uh, but it was so funny that you were on the John Kerwin program and you
Oh, I love him.
redid it with him. And again, it was so awkward.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so first of all, John, by the way, I'm going to plug his book. Do I have his book here? Oh wait, no, I don't. It's here. Well, John Kerwin, lovely man. He is does a he has a book, by the way, so definitely check out the John Kerwin book. But he asked me to be on his show, and I was so excited. I That was my first talk show ever, and this was, and I don't know, it was like 2019 or 18 or something. Anyway, I get on the show, and during the show, I had no idea. He said, I'd like to reenact that commercial. So he was the first person to bring it up since I did it. And so I'm like, oh yeah, we've got to recreate this. It is the silliest of all commercials. Like, let's do this. So we recreated it. And then just this year, Colbert, brought it.
Yes.
To me, I'm thinking somebody knew this commercial and was able to bring it up in the writer's room. And that to me blew my mind. Like, that was awesome. Like, you can imagine somebody saying, hey, let's do that thing where we bring that commercial in that we saw on the internet. Let's bring it in. And I was like, just the thought of him talking about that in the commercial and him like doing my moves and stuff. I was so complimented and I loved it.
Okay. So you have a daughter that is in her early 20s,
Mid 20s now. Yeah.
mid 20s.
25. 25.
Okay. And she's doing her own acting career.
Yes, she is. She's exploded. It's amazing.
So when she saw mom become relevant again, what did she say?
Oh, she died from laughter. Actually, she was like, oh my gosh, mom, that is so funny. Both my kids, I have a son as well. He's 23 now. And they just were like, my life is so, it's always kind of magical. These funny things happen with me. And my kids are always like, oh my gosh, it's mom again. Like, something crazy is something you just don't think is possible happens. We have like magical experiences in my family, and not just me, my kids as well, my husband, but crazy. But it was, yeah, they definitely got a kick out of it.
Because I find that interesting. Now, your
Yeah.
daughter is Olivia, correct?
Olivia De Laurentiis is her last name.
Okay, so she's actually on her own series right now.
Yes, she's on a show called Pivoting on Fox, and it's every Thursday night. I think it's 9:30 Pacific time.
Okay.
I don't know the other times, but I think she's actually on this coming Thursday, which would be the
17th.
Yeah, I think she's on this week's episode. But she plays Donna, the secretary. If she's not this week, she'll be on next week. But she is, and she has the Long Island accent on the show. She talks like this, and I am so honored that my daughter's getting to do all these dialects. She just got another film, a lead in a movie, and she's doing a kind of a dialect in that. And oh my goodness! And she just did another movie that called American Ted Bundy, American Boogeyman.
Yes.
Part of that. So and she's on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, she does Sid and Olivia on TikTok, and the Ellen DeGeneres digital show. She does on Sage. There's a show. There's on the internet. There's a network called Sage, and she actually has a talk show with her comedy.
Really?
Sydney Heller on the Ellen DeGeneres network. And I mean, literally, if you look up that network, you will see that she is hosting a show for her. So she is working so hard, and she's doing amazing.
Well, I reached out to her to have her on my program, but she hasn't returned my email. So anyhow, so if Mom can put a good word in for me, I'd appreciate it.
I will. She's been a little busy, but I will definitely.
Anyway, so you must be really proud. Did you know your daughter was always going to go into acting or performing?
You know, it's funny. I knew that she would achieve anything she wanted to.
Right.
And I think that when she was younger, you know, some kids like you go, oh, you're going to be a singer, you're going to be an entertainer. And it didn't come that way with her. Her imagination and her gifts could have taken her in many directions. And I think the thing that's most surprising to me is that I've said to her when she was younger, like the things she wants, like she wants to have her own show. And I said, you know, you're picking the hardest. She wants to do her own comedy show. I'm like, you're picking the hardest thing to do that has probably not been done by a lot of women. And I said to her, so the road is going to be harder, and it might take longer to get where you want to go. But, you know, you can get there. It's just, you know, I don't know if you can handle it, because that's the difference. You know, wanting to go after something is one thing, but being emotionally ready and being able to hang in there and not lose hope and work hard, and the combination of things, you know, you just don't know. Every person's different. So with her, I have to say I knew early that she was going to be successful in whatever she wanted to do. I think the biggest surprise, honestly, was that she wound up being an actress. Honestly, I guess I have to say, I never expected her to be an actress. I kind of expected her being maybe more of a comedian or a writer. But the fact that she's doing acting roles now is a surprise, and it's a beautiful surprise, because I'm seeing her, the things that maybe I've done that she kind of picked up along the way. Okay. Because I never sat down with her, and I've taught her things along the way, and she's seen how I've done things myself. I think, but a lot of it is very instinctive, and she's, I don't know, you know, I think it is part of it is instinctive, and you know, you grow up with it, you learn. But again, I was always surprised. I never knew her dramatic work is very surprising to me, and her dialects are very surprising to me. And she's wonderful. She's excellent. I'm very entertained. I'm very proud of her. You know, I think it's been like a surprise. Like some people see their kids and they go, oh, you've been working really hard towards this and that. When I have to say, for Olivia, I see her having her own show. I really do. Okay. I have to tell you, I've never seen anybody who could make things happen like she is, and she's emotionally ready. So watch out. Watch her show. Seriously, it's gonna happen. I don't know.
I keep notice you rocking back and forth, and I noticed the top of the t-shirt, which is Better Off Dead.
Bonjour. Voila.
And when I say that, my first thought is, would you think it would be okay if they remade the movie in 2022 and had your daughter play your part?
I would pay for that. I would give my $2 for that. Yes. I would. Oh my God, that would be incredible. That would be a super dream. That would be,
well,
that I would probably not be able to speak. I'd probably fall over.
Well, I'm surprised no one has thought of it yet.
Yeah, because we're doing dialects too. That's true.
So if anybody thinks of it, I get credit. So just to let you know, I will write that down on this moment.
We need a John Cusack. You know, we got to get it.
So we're talking about the new book. And what makes the new book different than the other two books?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that in writing books at all, the reason why I wrote any of these books is the most important thing was, as an actor, I really felt it was important to inspire the next generation. And also, a lot of actors, they talk about their life and there's a lot of tragedy. And for me, I wanted to share the side of it that was, if you dream of being an actor, how does it happen? How do you become an actor? So my first book, which is called The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. This book, the longest title ever in the world, which should make you smile because it's a long, long title. This book was inspired because I wanted you to get a primary source information. In college, they talk about primary source. It means it's the closest thing to the reality of a person's life there is. It's not like somebody telling somebody. It's not hearsay. It's not a rumor. It's not from a newspaper article. It is from me. And I really wanted people to hear my words, my story, how I tell it, and how I became an actress from someone who was not in the entertainment business, lower middle class, European family, not, had no connections in the entertainment business, but worked really hard and learned from the process and wanted to do it really badly. How does that even happen? So my first book is really a great inspiration for upcoming actors, people who love the 80s, who want to know about things that were going on in the 80s, who love the films I'm in. This is a really inspirational book. And I also, because not everything I did was PG. Not everything I did was PG as an actress, but it's important to know that, if you want to be an actor, you got to know that not everything that is offered to you is perhaps PG. So I rated the chapters. So people like younger you're an adult, you get it. You tell them stay away from the R-rated chapters. Okay.
So my question is, and I know we brought it up on the last program that you were on, is we talked about the not PG stuff. How did they did you want to do that, or did they have to convince you to do that?
I think it's a gradual process of learning about the entertainment business. I mean, really, like, you start off, at least for me, I started with modeling and commercials and a soap opera and theater. And I started as a child. So I have to say everything before 18 in the entertainment business is PG. It is. They're not allowed to have somebody who's under 18 do anything that is risque. Okay. All right. But I will, that said, I will say that I remember Brooke Shields having to do Pretty Baby. And of course, all the scenes that she was in, she probably couldn't even see her own movie. I'm sure. Right. And what they'll do is they'll either, if they had something, they would do body doubles. And if it's a whole thing. that was just a very unusual time. Early 80s was a very gritty, realistic, kind of thing. And people were, even, Taxi Driver, we're talking about young girls who are in these films, were very, very well protected and taken care of while the filming was going on. I can guarantee you that. It was something that, filmmakers did not take lightly. It was not taken in the professional world. Right. If it wasn't professional, I don't know. I can't speak for that. But in the professional films that were being made, it was definitely, very much care was taken about under 18. But because I had been in the business since I was 10 years old, when I got to 18, I was already grown up enough emotionally to understand that certain roles were going to be starting to be offered to me. And I think that's really where, if you start in the entertainment business at 18, you're going to be in for a big surprise, because there's no warm up. There's no, you're not learning about the business. You're suddenly being asked maybe to do things that you don't feel comfortable about. And frankly, you never, as an actress, ever do anything you don't feel comfortable with. You just don't. I just think that there are times where people, it's how people, it's a very individual thing. It has to do with each person and how you feel about it. So I'd say that, obviously a combination of things have to come together in order for for a person to be cast. You have to be mature enough emotionally, not just intellectually. No one's going to pull a fast one on you. I'll say that, but you know what, today is very different too. Things move very quickly. So back then, there were auditions, there were callbacks, there were third callbacks, there were screen tests. So you didn't go into something without knowing everything, what you were going to do, and everything was spelled out in your contract. So that's another thing to say, like, it should be today. Everything should be spelled out, but it should be. But back then, there was no way for it not to be, because there were so many, you had to jump through so many hoops to get there. But based on that subject, I will get to my second book, which focuses on that. My second book is called it's based on The Last American Virgin, because that was the first movie I did that had more adult subject matter in it.
Well, just by the title, you knew it had adult subject matter in it.
Yes, and this one is based on the curly hair. So it is called The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. But this one I went a little bit more risque. This is for people who love The Last American Virgin. I get into more detail, so it's a little more hot, saucy. And so I'd say over 18 for this one. But, again, I guess based on today's world, this is probably very soft, very the movie Last American Virgin was a teen sex comedy, but it was there's sweetness in it, and there is nudity, but it's just a whole different thing. This is I think nostalgic. I don't know, like I think that this is sweeter, but it is definitely not for young kids under 18. I'm just gonna say, just because
I got you.
I'm momming out, so I'm protecting my kids. But which brings me to this book, to this time. This book is for 13 and up. 13. This book I did specifically for all kids to be able to watch. I mean, if you could show your kid, probably your 5-year-old, this movie, but this is such a fun book. And this book I did, and this how it came. The other two books came from my life. This came, I had, in my prologue, what do you call it? Not prologue. Is it the prologue? I'm now spacing out. Preface. In my preface, I explained, but basically this came from a fan mentioning it would be very cool to have a book about Better Off Dead with pictures of the people in the book wearing this coat. So this coat is a very big part of this book. And I told Savage Steve Holland I was writing it. And then I said, well, would you like to add things? So this book is a labor of love. I love this movie. And there were so many other people who do love this movie. And I thought this movie needs its own book. But what is different about this book is that I reached out to other people for interviews, and I reached out to writer-director Savage Steve Holland. And so I had to do a lot more. I really, really tried to make this more realistic, accurate, because this wasn't just my perspective, but it was also the voice of other people. Right. So I and so many wonderful people connected with me through this book. Savage gave me so many great stories, things that I didn't even realize, I didn't even know. And Curtis Armstrong did a great interview for me, a new one. Amanda Wyss, the Paperboy, did an interview with me. I even have Cy Kernan, who did he did from The Fix. He even did an interview with me from England, which was so wonderful. I talked to him for like, I don't know, I'd have to say an hour, about him singing the music and working with Rupert Hine. And I talked to Rupert Hine's widow, I mean, from England. So this was an adventure for me. Actually, I actually spoke to so many people and found out so many things I didn't even know. So what you're getting in this book are things that have not been ever in articles or anything. So,
well,
and then I did this on the back. I had to make it like part of my series in the front.
Okay.
But this is the cartoony feel of Better Off Dead, and I had to give Savage his shout out,
his credit. You worked with a gentleman that most people would know as Charles Emerson Winchester III, or Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast. David Ogden Stiers. And the thing is, how did they convince him to do this film? Because this would have been right after MASH. This would have been him transitioning to his next career in film and in the industry to do a teenage comedy like this.
Well, Savage has a story about that in the book, so I don't want to blow it, but I will say this. David, also, I did watch MASH, so I know like the same thing. I was a fan of his when he came to the film. And the other thing about David, he wasn't there. I mean, David wasn't the first pick. So there were other people that Savage was considering. And it wasn't, I don't even know if you know, the other people really wanted to play that part. I mean, there were people who were like saying, I really want to do that role. But I think, I don't know, I think when Savage heard about him, I think he just jumped at it, because I think he knew, like, he really respected David. And I had a funny experience, because later on, David did a movie, this thing called The Cat That Looked at the King, which is on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. The Cat That Looked at the King. So David and I had never worked together except Better Off Dead. But then, I don't know, maybe 20 years later, my daughter was doing this little cartoon, and David was in this Cat That Looked at the King, did the voiceover as the king. And David did the voiceover for that. And my daughter was the live action in it. And it was with Julie Andrews.
Oh, okay.
And so my daughter acted with Julie Andrews. And I knew that David did the voice of the king, but David did it before. And so I don't think David ever knew that he worked with my daughter 10 years. So literally my daughter has, I guess she did a dialect then too. She played a young sort of Jane Banks in this. And so my daughter did an English dialect. And then David Ogden Stiers was in the same film. So it was really trippy for me, the fact that he, who has worked with me in this film when I was 23, acted with my daughter when she was 7 or something. Just such a trippy thing. But yeah, no, I don't know how he got in the film, but that's a good thing for the book. You got to check that out. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer for that.
Oh, so the other person is who played his wife, Kim Darby, who was also in the John Wayne film, True Grit. Now, I love this because now that I'm talking to you, I can play 6 Degrees of Separation with Diane Franklin, that now I'm connected to all these people, which is really cool.
Right. Okay, good. You're actually breathing on them. You're touching them right now. So,
well, I had a connection with John Wayne before because I talked to Dean Martin's daughter, Dina, and then I also have it through Fabian. So I now have the trifecta with you. So Kim Darby plays mom in this role. And was she, and I don't know, and I hate to say this because I know her from the John Wayne film, was she doing other things at the time and this was her stepping out again? or was she always doing, I don't want to say it's a small part, but it's a very important part in the film.
I think for Kim, like I know that Kim likes to has always liked to stretch herself, and
Mm-hmm.
she's a lovely actress. She's a lovely person. I mean, we did this movie called Summer Girl together, and she played a dramatic role of a woman who was pregnant, and I came as this evil babysitter, and I ruin her life, and I kidnap her kids. It's called Summer Girl. If you see it, you can see it on.
Wasn't it a made-for-TV movie?
Made for TV, and literally, like I torture poor Kim. I mean, I had never met her before that in film. We shot it in Hawaii with Barry Bostwick. She was married to Barry Bostwick.
I've seen it. Yes.
Oh my gosh. So Kim and I, like, we had this dramatic thing, and I just ruined this woman's life.
No.
I'm sorry about that, Kim. It was terrible. It was just terrible.
But the interesting thing about that is it was made for a TV network.
Exactly. It was made for CBS.
And you were in a bikini, a lot of it that left nothing to the imagination.
No.
And this would have been what time in the 80s?
1980. I'm thinking 1983. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. That's why you got a book here. I think it was 1983. But what I think, if I have a photo, that'll be really funny. Oh, look at that. A picture of Kim and I
and Barry Bostwick.
And Barry Bostwick, and me not wearing much.
Yes.
But yeah, there you go. That was, yeah. So look how serious Kim is. It was, so she was pregnant, and she has 2 other kids, and I come as the babysitter, and it was just a nightmare. It was just terrible evil.
And the story is that you basically seduce Barry Bostwick, who is supposed to be how old?
He's got to be in his like 40s or early 40s.
And how old were you supposed to be at that time?
My guess is probably, I guess I had, that's interesting. That's a good question. I mean, I always thought of myself as 20, but I don't know if you take it to maybe 17.
See, that's what let's talk it the 1980s when this stuff wasn't as taboo as we thought it was.
You're right. Maybe it was 17. You take a baby vacation. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it. But
You're the downfall of society. Now I know what caused it.
Yeah. Yeah. Darn. Well, I was always older playing younger. So with that, yeah, it looks like underage, but no, I'm going to just say I was over 18 because I was traveling with them to Hawaii. So you got to give me that. All right.
Well, okay. Anyway, we'll let you have that one. So that's really interesting when you talk about these. Have you noticed more nostalgia for the 1980s? Now, as you and I talked before, I turned 56 this summer. So I'm in the middle of that. I graduated high school in 84, graduated college in 88. So I'm a product of the 80s. Yeah. Do you notice that a lot of people our age and slightly younger are now becoming fascinated with the 80s?
I think there's an increasing respect for the 80s, actually, which is interesting. I think the 80s, okay, so you asked about my kids and how they feel, about my career or certain things.
Right.
And what's interesting to me now is like, I think they look back and they go, I mean, the first thing was funny is like, oh, the 80s are a long time ago. That's a long time. That's like history. And I'm like, wait a minute, no. The 40s are the history. This is 80s aren't the history, like the old days, right?
Right.
But it is definitely, we've gotten away from it so much that it is a part of history. And I think people are, especially with COVID, I think people really miss the 80s, our age, because it was a time where everything was sort of free, and there was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of freedom, and it was very upbeat. There were very upbeat movies and a lot of teen movies. And
yes,
definitely bring us back to our youth. And so I do think that the nostalgia is very strong. And I think as I say, there's been a feeling of respect, because now the older generation realizes that wasn't a given. Like those teen movies, and the way relationships happened and all that. It's not happening today. The stories are different. Some of the romances is different today than it was then. I have to say, the only thing that's I really find is some of the movies they don't translate to today's generation in certain ways. Some things were sexist, some things were racist.
Oh yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Which weren't done on purpose at the time. It was a reflection of the time. And it's actually good for, people to look back and go, oh wow, like that's the way society saw things or behaved.
Which an
But
example of that is in Better Off Dead, when you had the two Asians, the one learning English through Howard Cosell, and the whole race thing, in which, again, if you look at it the wrong way, it looks like they're insulting them, but in reality, it's not that way. But again, it all depends on the glasses you're looking through.
Yeah, and you as a teacher understand that it is absolutely, nothing in Better Off Dead was done with malice. Savage was brilliant at bringing humor to things, but he even instructed the guys. He said, he wasn't trying to make fun of them. He actually, in the way he directed them, he actually gave them direction that had to do with them having self-esteem in their driving and it was a very interesting thing. As I was reading through this, I was like, wow, there was no malice, no prejudice, there's not an ounce of it in Savage. He's the sweetest guy, and I think it's interesting to see the film, and I think that's why the film still holds up so well, because it was the core intention.
When we talk about your part in the film, you're playing the French foreign exchange student.
Maybe.
Do you think they could have used any other nationality to play that part, or were they going for the implied sexual tension that we think the French display?
Oh, this is based on Savage's life, which is what I love about Even Less American Virgin. This is truth. He knew a French girl.
Okay.
So that was based on something that kind of happened to him. It's a kind of a cute story in there, but so that was just completely random. But I love the fact that Monique is, it's just different culture, and and it's very fun, and I think it's great for the American culture to see, this woman who has different priorities, and she has different ways of expressing herself, and something we perhaps can learn from.
So what was, and not to slight you in any way, but what was the purpose of casting an American for that part and not a French actress?
I have to tell you, who knows if Savage even considered having a French actress do it. I just know I came in and I wanted that part so badly that I just became Monique. I mean, literally in the audition, I started talking like this, and I'm Monique. I think it was a combination of understanding who that person is, as well as the dialect. Because you could put somebody else in that role, and they could have a great dialect, but if that's not the core person, as somebody who, is stands up for themselves and has confidence, and I think it was a combination of those things that made that work for the role. Because yes, look, they could have had any actress come into a French part, but I think one of the things that made that work so well is the chemistry between John and I, and that Monique was a character that was very self-sufficient and strong, and I just understood that. I got that.
And when you look at the cast, there was a lot of people that went on. For example, Dan Snyder, who played Ricky, who has this whole career working behind the camera and doing children's based programming, especially for Nickelodeon.
Yes, it's kind of unbelievable. Better Off Dead humor actually did go into Nickelodeon.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And because Savage wound up working for first, Dan Schneider worked for Savage in Better Off Dead. Then later on, Savage worked for Dan Schneider at Nickelodeon, because he was directing and writing scripts from, I guess it was, I mean, I'm not exactly sure exactly the shows he was on, but Dan ran iCarly, Zoe 101, Drake and Josh, The Amanda Show. There were so many things, and the Better Off Dead humor was perfect for Nickelodeon. It was a microcosm of, it's larger than life cartoons, right? Like live action cartoons coming to life. So, but Better Off Dead had so many great actors in it. I was really surprised that it got Vincent Schiavelli. He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
Major talented actor. I couldn't believe that they got him in Better Off Dead. So there were certain actors, I mean, everybody in that film held their own, which was such a delight for writing this book, because if you've seen the movie and you watch it over and over again, because it is sort of like, people do see it as a Christmas movie, as a Valentine movie. People see it all year long. And it's also a movie that makes you feel really good. Like after you're done watching it, you feel good. So people like to watch it. But you start memorizing the performances, watching the performances, and you start realizing everybody held their own. You know, that the mailman, Taylor Negron, hilarious. You know, as the mailman, he made all our mail, you know, us wonder who does open our mail every day. It makes us, you know, there were thoughts like, wait, does that really happen?
But and again, you're right. Even going down to the paper boy, who was just, again, one of those roles that you keep reoccurring when you think about the movie. That's one, it may not be a big role, but it's enough of a role that you keep remembering because it's iconic, because it's something that we can relate to.
I want my $2, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
People have said that to me, to Amanda, to Curtis. And he's such a major part of the story. And yet, you know, people don't know that much about him. So that's why it's nice to have the book. And I'm hoping that this book inspires, maybe we could do a big reunion and signings. And I just hope that it
I'm surprised it hasn't been a reunion yet.
To a certain, we've had some reunions. We had like something at the Egyptian Theater. It is a beloved film, but who knows what's going to happen? Yeah, I mean, like maybe there will be another Better Off Dead. I don't know, or maybe there'll be it's just, maybe this is the year. This is the year. Hopefully, this book will inspire some more.
Because a lot of the times when we see either remakes or spin-offs or whatever, we would see the families of the characters, of what happened afterwards.
Right.
Could you do like better off dead or whatever it may be? Because I can see that with John's role being a father stuck in a job that he doesn't like, so on and so forth, and trying to do whatever he can to get out of it. So I could see doing something like that.
I'll tell you, I talked to John. I mean, I actually spoke to John and said to him, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, if we ever did a movie, if we did a sequel to it, people would go crazy.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I just told him that I was, you know, like probably like a year ago, I said, if we ever did it, I just want you to know I'm open. I would love to. And I know Savage is, I don't know how it is, but I know Savage was, you know, thinking of something along the lines, but you never know. I just say we'll put it out there into the world, and if anyone comes up with something, send me the script. All right.
Gotcha. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, and we touched on this briefly last time, is that you enjoy doing the genre of horror, which I think is really interesting, because you have a new movie coming out called Waking Nightmare, which most people wouldn't know him to look at him, but his name is David Naughton. In the 1970s and 80s, he was I'm a Pepper, You're a Pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a Pepper Poo? Spokesman for Dr. Pepper. And what?
Oh my gosh. And here's the funny thing. I just found out, I think that he's born on my birthday. Is that true? Is he born on February 11th?
He could be.
Super weird. All right. And so, yes, I did this movie called
sorry.
Oh, no?
February 13th.
Oh, okay. We're close though. Okay.
2 days later.
All right. All right, good. Well, I should have wished him a happy birthday. Dave and I, yeah, we did a scene together actually in this movie. Great movie, unbelievable movie. I don't know when it's going to come out. I think it would be, if it does come out, it would come out to the film festival circuit.
Okay.
Unbelievably, a role you've never seen me in. Once again, all the parts that I do, I try to surprise people, and you've never seen me play this character, and it is a great acting role. I mean, really, people are like, wow. Like, I think in a way, it's one of those movies that could get me a best actress in something, because it's a pretty great movie. But who knows when they're putting it out. But yeah, I did work with David, and it's funny, we all did commercials back in New York. Yeah. I did a Pepsi commercial, a Coca-Cola commercial. I did a Coca-Cola commercial with Lori Loughlin too. Like,
okay,
crazy. So many, we were all kids during that time in the 80s, and
well, one thing I want to ask you about, because it became part of the conscience of America in the last few months, is your Reese's peanut butter cup commercial that was shown with a different spin on the Stephen Colbert show on CBS. Now, again, going back to looking at the commercial, you're walking down the street with an open jar of peanut butter. A guy is eating a candy bar, which is not unusual, but a girl walking down, sticking 2 fingers in a jar of peanut butter in downtown New York is really odd. When they pitched that idea to you, did you go, I wouldn't do this?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, seriously. During the commercial, I went, what am I doing? Like, it was weird then. So I'm going to share that with you. It was even weird then. And I was like, okay, but it was absolutely, I remember specifically thinking, this is really silly. Like, this is like, okay, whatever. And I think they did I mean, I don't know if I was the only one to do that commercial. It was a series of commercials.
Yes, it was.
Right. But ours was just really hokey, and especially, like, I loved it when John Kernan and I did it, because we were like, oh.
Well,
what? And you're like, oh my goodness, in my what? All right.
My wife and I, it must have been around Christmas or Halloween or whenever, and there were Reese's peanut butter cups, and she went into the commercial because it's one of those things that we remember. And my kids, 21, 17, and 14, looked at us going, what are you talking about? And I said, seriously, you've never heard this before. And I showed it to them, and they looked at me and said, that is really corny, Dad. And I said, well, that was the 80s. I mean, what more can I say?
Corny. Absolutely. And again, and just the thought that Stephen Colbert saw that was like, oh, like, I was like, I was like, Stephen Colbert has seen me. I mean, who knows? The other thing that's so interesting, I've been in the business for so long now, at a certain point, you're thinking people they might know you because they've just been around a long time.
Yes.
So that one of the surprising things is sometimes, people have seen my films, and as a young actor, you think, no, who knows me? But as an older actor, like, well, I've been around a long time. You get through all the videos, eventually someone's going to see them. So I've had some famous people see my work, and it's been such a compliment, that they know, or they liked they liked the films I've done. So, or they'd said, oh my gosh, that was such an inspiration. That's always great. I just think that's one of the best things about being in the entertainment business, is for people that you admire to like your work.
So the other thing, real quick, is that you mentioned earlier that you did soap operas, and you were on As the World Turns. When you were on that program, your next big role was the Last American version, because it was like 79, 82, somewhere in that ballpark.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Did anybody question you about doing that role? Did they know that you were going to do it? Did anybody say, you know what, this may not be the right direction for you to go into for your career, or did they push you into it?
Okay, no, that's interesting. Actually, a little story to tell you about that. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so when I was on As the World Turns, I was recurring for about a half a year. So I did a lot of episodes, and I really loved it. But I played the bad girl. And because of that, I had to die. I had to get rid of me. I mean, I didn't die, but like they had to get rid of me. As all good soap operas do, you get a character and then you have to do something like Betsy's not friends with that girl anymore, Lois Middleton. So they left me, but it was excellent training, incredible training. Soap operas are the best training for memorizing, and I highly recommend it to actors, even if it sounds goofy. Boy, it's really excellent training and excellent experience. So, and ironically, this is a very lovely story, is that in one of the scenes on that soap opera, there was a girl I did a party scene with, and her name is Elizabeth Barrage. And Elizabeth Barrage and I wound up competing for so many roles in the future, but in that particular party scene, we are friends. We played both bad girls. It was just great. So I really always love the fact that since I've been in the business for a while, I've had other actors have come in and out of my life through, just the business, right? So after that, when I got Last American Virgin, some time had passed. I'd have to say a year or maybe a year and a half. And so when I was going to college at the time, and I had this audition, and I said, you're talking about like, I'm not going to be doing that kind of film. Well, I get the audition for a film called The Last American Virgin, and I get the script, and I mean, I get the name of it, and I'm like, I'm not going for that. I've got a chemistry test in my college. I'm at NYU. I got a midterm, so I'm not going for that movie. And so I let my hair go curly, and I just go take the chemistry test. And I look at the test, and I obviously realize I have a better chance of getting a lead in a film. There's no way I'm gonna pass this test. So I run up to the audition. I take this, like, I don't know, subway, train, bus, whatever. I get up there to upper east or west side, I think. And I see the director, and they say, we're gonna fly you out to LA next week, right away. Like, so I was like, oh, okay. So the following week, I mean, even though I'm in school, I'm signed up at NYU, I'm going to classes, I'm taking off, I got to go to LA. And the idea was, you get there, if you get there and you get it, you stay and shoot the film. That's how fast it was. And imagine I was 19. So imagine having a child who's 19 years old. You had better know what you're doing if you're flying by yourself to California and you're going to be in a feature film. I mean, I had managers and I had people and my parents, and I had people watching out for me, but think about the maturity level I had to be on emotionally to be able to do that. So go out there. So I get in there, and I was ready. Again, I started when I was 10 years old. So by then I really could handle myself, and I could handle others. But when I got there and I had a screen test, I tested with the other people in the film. There was a picture of a girl on the wall. And the girl was the only other girl who was being considered for the part of Karen in The Last American Virgin. And this girl was named Kristen Alfonso. And Kristen Alfonso was offered a role in a soap opera at that time, just at the same time Virgin hit. And she chose to do the soap opera. And she could have taken the film, and she probably would have gotten the part, but because she chose the soap opera, which she stayed on for, I think, her entire life. Like, was a lucky break. As far as I know, I mean, I don't know if it was still on. She's been on that show for her whole life. That was a major moment in her life. I was offered the opportunity to do Virgin. So Virgin changed my life. But it's fascinating how that moment in her life also changed it. So in answer to your question, I think things happen, opportunity knocks and you choose to open the door or not. I had been in the business for 8 years before that, and I was ready to move forward. And I knew I could make that role memorable. Because I knew as an actress, but not every actress could have done the role for Last American Virgin. Not anybody. Not, it was, in fact, Boaz was talking, and he said, like, they met thousands of actresses, name actresses, and they couldn't find the person. So it's sort of like Kismet hits, and that happened at the right time. but I brought a lot of love to that role, and I think that for me made a difference. And I think another actress could have done it, and it just, that's the other thing too. So many films come out and people like them, but if maybe they had another actor in it who brought something that's personal and poetic or expressive to the role, then maybe it could have been an amazing, outstanding film. So just because you have a movie and you cast it doesn't mean every actor's bringing something amazing to it. You hope it does. And that really has to do with the director, what their vision is. But sometimes you cast something and it's not all up to the director. There's too many people putting their fingers in it. And so sometimes things don't get cast the way, maybe the writer envisioned it or the way the director is. So in answer to your question, no one was pushing me into it. It was definitely a thoughtful decision, and I talk about those in my book. So if you're interested, go read my books. But
so the other question is you mentioned your daughter earlier about doing TV.
Yeah.
And one of the roles you did in TV was on Charles in Charge, that you played Anna Grandova. If you had the opportunity to have your own TV series, would you have taken it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was close to that. I did a pilot called Too Good to Be True, and I was the lead. It was an ensemble piece, but I was like a lead girl in that. And if that had gone, it was, you know what it was? It was like a sort of like Annie. It was supposed to be non-musical, but it was about like a girls' school, and it was kind of a couple of boys stuck at a girls' boarding school, and the lead guy was supposed to be sort of like a Daddy Warbucks. It was kind of interesting, and Diana Muldaur was in it. She played like the headmistress, I think. So that pilot, if it had gone, my whole life would have been different. I would have been a television actress. That would have been it. But I will say this, I did much better work, I think, being a film actress, because I got to stretch myself. And certainly if I had done that, I never would have done Better Off Dead, because I wouldn't have been up the opportunity. So I'm so happy.
So what's interesting is that I'm looking through the list, and when you were mentioning the program, Too Good to Be True, released in 1983. Let's see, you had John Stockwell was in it with you, Diane. You're Diane Franklin. I was going to read your name.
Diana Muldaur, I think. Muldaur, right?
And right, and going through this list of names, going, okay, it could have gone further, but why don't you think they picked it up? Because it was too much a cross between, because just hearing it, the synopsis here is: the story set at a Pepperidge preparatory school for girls follows the misadventures of 8 teenage boys recently admitted to the once all-girls school. The pilot episode depicts the boys' effort to run a candidate for student body president against a popular female candidate. So at the same time, you had Facts of Life.
Yes.
You had Head of the Class. You had these other school programs. You just think there were too many of them, and that's why it didn't take off? Or
no, I have a feeling it might have had to do with, and these things happen too. Like it might have been, maybe a star saying, I don't want to do this, or I want to do it, or I need more money, or
okay.
I have a feeling it was more of a business thing rather than or availability thing rather than the show. Okay. I know that there were a lot of hopes for it, and I think the ratings, everything I think with the Nielsen ratings then, so maybe it didn't hit as high in Nielsen ratings as they had hoped, but that might have had to do with the stars. I have no idea. It was just kind of an interesting, it was a really cute show, I can tell you that, but it wasn't the only show. I'm sure there are a lot of other shows, but things get made sometimes because the stars who are in it maybe have some more power.
Okay.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that make things happen, and financial investment in projects. So, but I don't think it was the show. I don't think it really was the talent, the people who were acting in it. I think everyone did a really good job. They were, and were very funny.
So the last question I have for you, if your career would have started within the last 15 years with the internet being as big as it is, do you think it would have went in a different direction because of all these streaming services we have and all this other stuff?
Oh,
do you see yourself?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, the internet has made everything, just changed everything. And success is, it used to be your 15 minutes.
Yes.
You got about a minute. Of success. You got 1 minute, 1 minute of success. Okay. It's gone down. And inflation, the $2 have gone to like 2,200. No, I do think that we now have, there's too much. First of all, there's so much entertainment. The great thing about entertainment today is that everybody can show their talent on the internet. I love that. There's so many things I'm sure you watch that you go, wow, that's amazing. Like, I'm so glad I even got to see that, 5-year-olds sing like opera, or that right. Bird do the dance, like with the dog. I don't like, whatever, there's so many great, amazing things to see on the internet. And I love that. But also it is so fleeting. And I think that's really hard for entertainers, because it's not that they're competing with each other. It's just that they constantly have to come up with content. So even I did this show with my daughter, a little thing we were doing for a while, and we only did it up until when she got really busy. She wanted to do a little internet show with me. It was called Live and Die in LA.
Okay.
Live is Olivia and Die is in Diane.
Right.
And we started doing this little thing, and it was very fun. And we could have really pushed that, but she needed to go towards her career. And so I only did it because she said, oh, Mom, let's do a show. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what a compliment, to do right. A show with your mom. And it was very funny. So I would say it would have been very different. And I think it would have also been very product based, because nowadays, in order to get yourself known, people are selling things.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Oh, I wear my blah 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 glasses, or I wear like this. And even though I'm technically selling my book, at least for me, I'm doing that. It's really motivated by nostalgia and motivated about going back to the 80s. And I just know that I want to have people see something true and something real and something that'll make them feel good, really. So whatever happens for me as an actress, I love doing acting and I love doing parts, and I put myself out there as wherever's, I can help actors and do films. I mean, I did like this beautiful short recently for this up and coming director who is and normally I don't do shorts, but it was a 1950s film and his art direction was stunning. And so I do this beautiful little sort of science fiction kind of X-Files kind of short.
Okay.
So like I do things for people if I believe in them. And I love, that's to me right now in the experimental phase. So if you're talking about anything with a career, what I think is really nice now for actors is, if I was in my career, is I would probably be doing a lot of experimental films. Like, I'll try this or I'll do that. And then for commercials, like for commercially, it would be selling products of some sort, or being on a show. I would probably be on some kind of, crime show, I guess, or science fiction show that becomes very popular. Although I would love to have been like on sort of like a Stranger's Things, or even, who knows, maybe Marvel movies. That's another thing that's been so big, is the superhero things.
Right,
so,
right. Well, Diane, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was a joy.
Thank you, Bill. You're amazing. And I love going rolling down memory lane with you.
Well,
that's beautiful.
Thank you. And if you want to, one more time, promote the newest book for me.
Oh, yes. please check out, look up Diane Franklin books. Here's what I would do. If you really want to find this book right now, I would go to Amazon. I would then put in, once you go to Amazon, put Diane Franklin books. And then I think you will see this. Because if you just do it out of Google search, it's not there yet. So be the first people to get this book and you will go crazy. If you love this, I would say watch the movie. No, read the book, then watch the movie, right?
Yeah.
And if you've never read it, then watch the movie first, if you've never seen it.
Well, and the other thing is, for those of you that want the book, I do have the link for it. So I will put it in my description and I'll put it up on the screen right now. So that way they can see it and they can go to it. So Diane, thank you very much.
Remember, I talk with the French accent. Don't be confused, all right? This is
So,
French fries, French bread in Peru. Au revoir.
Please come back when you write the 4th book. I really appreciate it. And good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. All right, Bill. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, a big thank you goes out to Diane Franklin for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Had a great time talking to her, and hopefully you enjoyed it too. And don't forget to check out her new book, Diane Franklin, the excellent comedy of the last American French exchange babe of the 80s, the Better Off Dead movie tribute book, which is being released February 18th, 2022, which for some of you, it's this coming Friday. And the link is right here on the screen to show you where you can get the book on Amazon, and also in the description if you're listening to the podcast or watching it online. So everybody, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time here on The Bill Alexander Show.
Thank you for listening to The Bill Alexander Show. The Bill Alexander Show is a $1 Million Baby production. For more information, go to thebillalexandershow.com.